Hey, in today's video, I wanted to talk about 5 reasons why you should not be using consultants in your company. So if you're not familiar with me, I have been a product director since 2017, and I have been working with different consultants for different purposes. Sometimes there have been cases where I actually have hired those consultants, and in some cases it has been the company that has brought the consultants. But not every time that you work with consultants, the experience is going to be the same. So today I wanted to talk about some of the reasons where you should pay attention that you don't bring consultants to work with you, or you should be carefully assess if you need consultants to do that kind of job. So let's dive in. The first reason why you probably should not bring consultants to your company is that you bring consultants to build your value proposition. When you're bringing consultants to build your value proposition, it might be the case that you advance relatively fast. It might be the case that you actually build the value proposition of your product relatively fast. But you're going to have a problem of how you're going to scale up and maintain this in the future. First of all, because it's not your teams who are building the value proposition. They're not going to have usually, or they're going to lack the ownership on that feature of that value proposition, set of feature, project, whatever you want to call it, or product that they have built. And many times the maintenance is not going to be that easy to achieve or to maintain that code. Most of the teams, it will happen very often, they don't want to maintain the code that other teams have built for them, let's say, or other teams that have built it in the past. Maintenance, something that usually teams don't like, something that you are going to struggle with if you bring consultants to build it. And the other big problem is that you don't have the knowledge internally about your value proposition, the value proposition of your product. This is a very big no-no, in my opinion. It is very important that even if you bring consultants to build part of your value proposition, you have to have a transfer of knowledge. And I will dive into that one later. The second reason why I don't think that you should be using consulting firms is that in some cases, companies bring a consultant to help do an exercise. For example, set up a strategy for the next couple of years. But then they bring this person or these people to do 1 or 2 sessions to help build a strategy, but there is no follow-up. And that for me is a lost opportunity. I'm not talking here about companies that don't have the knowledge to help you build or set your strategy. They might be very competent at doing that. But many times companies think that you bring a consultant into your firm, you have them working with you 1 or 2 sessions, maybe you spend with them 3-4 hours, and then you get with a rough idea of what this strategy of this, whatever it is that they are helping you build. You get that strategy, let's say, and then the problem is that you don't have the means to implement it because you don't have the knowledge of how to take that work forward. And many times companies do this. It sounds really cool. You have a very good couple of sessions, but usually that work many times goes down the drain because nobody takes it forward in the future. And that is a big problem that I've seen several times happening with actually very experienced consultants that they really know what they are talking about, but there is no follow-up. And even if the consultants have been saying that it would be good to have the follow-up sessions to really make sure that this happens and maybe develop what is the roadmap to establish the strategy to make it actionable, then the work ends there, and then basically that work to build our strategy realistically never gets you anywhere. The third reason why I think that you should not bring consulting firms into your company is when it's more of an academic exercise than an actual implementation exercise. There are many consulting firms out there that potentially, especially with the very big consulting firms, it tends to happen that they have people that they train to help companies by building frameworks, by building development processes. But these people have never actually done that kind of job with a company on their own. They have just been going to companies to tell them how they should work, but they really have not hands-on experience. And this ends up being a very nice potentially presentation. It probably in paper, many things make sense, but when it comes to the actual implementation and the deployment of these plans, it is a very, as I said, academic exercise. And if people don't have the experience to be able to do this in practice, it's going to be very difficult. This is like establishing or adopting Agile. If you have never done it yourself, it probably sounds everything very, let's say, easy in practice. If you take Scrum, for example, the ceremonies and the practices might not sound that complicated in advance, but when you come to the reality of implementing them and why should you implement them, and in which cases maybe you should be taking a slightly different route and modify them slightly because it's going to suit better your organization, then this is going to be probably a lot of trial and error. And if you don't bring people that have that experience of having done it several times, they are going to struggle with those problems. It's going to take much longer to implement that strategy, that framework, that process, whatever it is. And by the way, I'm not saying that somebody that has not done it is going to succeed immediately. They are not. There is going to take them time also to help you adopt these frameworks, but they are going to be much more experienced when it comes to what are, the problems that you are usually going to find and how to stay calm, stay cool, and understand how could you or how they can help you overcome those problems. The fourth one, I would not maybe take this as a reason not to take it, but I would be wary if this is not a conversation that happens during the negotiations for the consulting. And I would be more optimistic or more positive about a consulting firm that brings this topic instead of me having to bring it. And the topic here is that they have a transfer plan, or let's say a knowledge transfer plan for whatever they have been implementing. So there are many companies, consulting companies, that they will come and help you, for example, build a new feature, a feature for your product. It is very important that this firm has some kind of knowledge transfer plan to bring that knowledge from the consulting company to your teams. If you are not able to do this, you're going to have a plan that you are going to inherit this feature, this project that the consulting company has done, and nobody knows how to take it forward. This is related to what I was talking earlier. If you don't have a plan to actually bring the knowledge internally to your teams, well, you can imagine that nobody's going to take ownership of this. It's going to probably fall flat on its face because nobody is going to care about it, because nobody has the ownership. So if you're bringing consultants into your company, whether they are consultants more like in a strategic level, or they are consultants that they are going to help you build a set of features for your product, you have to have people or a team that is going to work close with these consultants, that transfer of knowledge is going to happen, that they are going to learn how to continue building that or developing or implementing a strategy, or they are going to understand how they have built, for example, let's say an e-commerce feature into your product, and they're going to transfer that knowledge to the developers, to the engineers. This way, if you do it like this, you're solving potentially two problems. First of all, you probably don't have the knowledge internally in the company, and that's fine. It happens to all of us. There's going to be parts where you are not experienced. There are going to be parts where you're really good, parts where you're not that great. If the consulting can help you gather that knowledge, learn, and adopt those new ways of working, then you are benefiting from the consultant building this because they have done it several times in the past, and then also training your teams at the same time. So there is a good handover. So at least somebody in your organization, they're not going to be as experienced, obviously, but they will know a little bit which direction that feature is going, what is the knowledge, technologies, frameworks that they had to be using, and how to take it forward, and also take ownership of the feature or the process. The fifth reason why I would consider very carefully whether to bring in or not consultants is if you have teams that have the competence to build that feature, to develop that process that the consultants are coming to help you with. So I would not say that you should not bring consultants to develop things that you have the core competence necessarily. But the problem with bringing consultants to do this is that the teams that have that competence are going to think that you might be ignoring them, that you might think that they don't have the competence. This is something that it will happen fairly easily. And I'm fortunate I've seen it happening several times. And usually it's an external struggle, and it's a problem for the teams, and it's a problem for the people that really know how to do that and why you're bringing consultants to do that job. Of course, many times what's happening as well is that you just don't have the time. You just don't have the bandwidth. So that's why I'm saying that I'm not completely against it. I understand that in some cases you need to do that. But I would say that if you go this route, you really had to bring in the people that had that competence, the people that potentially have been owning this part. So they also buy into the idea of bringing the consultants to do the job, because it's potentially going to help them. It's going to help advance that project, advance that framework, that process, whatnot. And they're going to get the work done faster. You're not trying to take the ownership away, but you're trying to involve the people that bring or has the ownership into the actual project and into the work with the consultants. What happens very often, unfortunately, is that the management team decides that to bring that consulting firm without really talking with the team or the people that have that ownership or that have that competence. And there is when you end up in a situation that people can be definitely upset, usually. So these are the reasons that I have found that I would be careful to bring consultants in these kind of situations. But which ones are yours? Probably are different from mine. So please comment below and share with the rest of us which ones would those be. I have worked several times with consultants. The reality is that there has been consulting firms that I work with where it has been super smooth. It has been really great experience to work with them. And in some other occasions, although the consultants, they could have the knowledge, but really the project or the work with them didn't go anywhere. And then some other cases where clearly the consultants potentially didn't have the competence needed to do that job. So I'm not saying that working with consultants is always a problem. I think that there are many reasons why you should be working with consultants, and they can help you a lot advance your work. If you want to know some of those reasons, please go and check this video. I will see you in the next one, and remember, stay safe.